Welcome back, parents, to a week 4 edition of How Can I Help My Children Prepare for Math with Mr. McCray. This week, we're going to take a look at what we accomplished last week and what is on the horizon for this week. For shout outs, we want to acknowledge the following students. Okay, from period 1, most improved pupil, Jaheim Anderson, Katerina Negron. Period 4, Tyree Jenkins. Period 6, Desana Kami. Period 7, MV Turner. Each one of these students have increased by 40 points over the last week in their grades. So we want to definitely give them a shout out. So last week, what did they do? All right, so last week, parents, your students had a task of doing a teacher task with me where we talked about the line of best fit. The line of best fit, quite honestly, helps them better understand how to use linear regression. Those were things that we talked about, using the calculator to find not only what the equation of the line is, the slope of the line, the y-intercept of the line, but if a linear regression is close to $1, we say that it is a strong tendency that those two data points correlate. If that linear regression is closer to a nickel, we said that it has a weak dependency. So those are things that your child should know. Also last week, your child had the opportunity to do test corrections for the quiz that they took on Halloween. Remember, parents, test corrections work in this way. If they got a 50 on the test, that means they lost 50 points. Test corrections will allow them to get 25 of those points back. So effectively, 50 and 25 is a 75. So at any point in time, parents, your child can go from a failing grade to a passing grade by doing those test corrections. All right. What else did they do last week? They did a flashback activity where I asked them to answer some questions based on videos that I've done on my YouTube channel. And lastly, they did an Ed puzzle activity where they were told to go to a video, and embedded in the video were 4 or 5 questions that made sure that they were paying attention. All those videos had to do with linear functions. And finally, parents, last week, your child had a chance to do a mock Regents. And what is a mock Regents? A mock Regents, parents, is when your child actually sits through the exact same test or quiz that they'll have to take in June. So it'll be similar questions. And so what that allows you and I to know is how much they know and how much I need to teach. All right. It also allows me to see who's improved the most. So if a student takes a mock quiz and at the end of the year, they got a 70, at the start of the year, they had a 40, I know they have grown that much over the course of the year. Now, I'll be very candid with you, parents. You know, we have some students that are super, super lazy, and they chose, instead of doing the quiz and just doing their best effort, they chose to do nothing. They didn't even try. And that's something that we got to work on, because in life, it's not how much you know, it's how hard you work. And that's a lesson that we got to continue to work on with our young people. All right, I want to keep this video under 6 minutes. So let me go on to our upcoming lessons. So this week, parents, your students are going to have a chance to do test corrections for the test they took on November the 14th. Again, they can get 50% of their points back that they lost. Also this week, they're going to have an assignment Monday through Friday. These assignments have to do with explorations of a function, being able to interpret linear and explorational function in context. Also this week, we're going to have our quiz. Our quiz this week is going to be on I can create a line of best fit. Also on that quiz is I'm going to be testing them on the questions that were on that flashback activity. So if they did the flashback activity, they should have no problem doing the 3 questions I've set aside. And finally, On the quiz is going to be questions about functions. So if they did the Ed puzzle activities, the 3 questions that are going to be on the test, they shouldn't have a problem with that also. And finally, Friday this week, we're going to do part 2 of our mock Regents. So parents, let me be clear. On part 1 of the Regents, it's 24 points. It's 24 questions. Each question is worth about 2 points. So I've shared with them that if they learn how to use the graphing calculator, they should be able to get 24 points in part 1. Now, they only need to score 27 out of 86 points in order to pass the Regents exam. Again, they need to score 27 out of 86 points. So if they can score 24 points in part 1, they only need 3 more points in part 2 in order to pass that Regents the first time. Part 2, they're going to do this week on Friday. And part 2 is going to be short response and short answer. Those questions are worth between 3 and 4 points. Again, if they know how to use the graphing calculator, they will be able to fill it to be able to capture at least 60 to 70% of those points. So parents, again, if your child is struggling understanding anything that relates to calculator, make them aware. They got to make time. See Mr. McCray after school during office hours. See Mr. McCray at lunch, so they can get better at that. They can get better at that calculator. All right. Last but not least, parents. This week's motivational video that I'm going to encourage you to share with your parents, your students, comes from Oprah Winfrey, quote unquote, our next president of the United States. That's just my opinion. So I'm going to play a brief clip for you, and then I'm going to encourage you to use the link that I'm enclosing so that you and your child can review the whole video together. Okay? This is a commencement speech she did at Spelman University, where she was awarded an honorary doctoral degree.
All of you leaving here have the potential for enormous success. There's a price that comes with that. First and foremost, knowing who you are. Knowing who you are. Being able to answer this question, who am I? And what do I want? I'm asking the bigger question of who am I? Who am I really? And what do I want? I don't want to just be successful in the world. I don't want to just make a mark or have a legacy. The answer to that question for me is I want to fulfill the highest
All right, so parents, for copyright issues, I have to stop the video so YouTube doesn't freeze my account. But what I would ask you to do is finish reviewing that video with your child. It's super powerful, super impactful. And as always, parents, if your child is struggling, make sure that they check in with me so we can help them get whatever concerns or questions they have out of the way. All right, as always, 30 minutes of study a day keeps bad grades away. All right, parents, have a good one.